Welcome, everyone. Jim, it's so nice to see you. Thank you for jumping in. Hi, everyone. So there are a lot of new faces today, or new names today. So I'm going to introduce myself, and then I'll give you a little synopsis of kind of what we're doing today. So thank you so much for joining. I hope if anyone is having any problems with my audio, please just let me know. But my name is Nkem Ezeamama. I am an ER physician. I'm based out of Nashville, Tennessee. I'm the CEO and founder of Phoenix Capital Investments. And I initially started as a passive investor, and then I moved to the active side as really a way to just grow wealth outside of the medical field. And that has been my heart and my goal, is to help healthcare professionals, or just professionals in general, in and out of the healthcare space, to grow wealth while you still get to do what you love. And that's really how I started with multifamily real estate investing. So we do these webinars every bi-monthly. So we come together last Thursday of the month, and it's really to just educate our community, to bring people together, to bring experts, and also like just really strong entrepreneurs to teach the community. But today I felt like it was the end of the year. I just thought that I would use this opportunity to really share my story, and to really tell people how I went from to an entrepreneur, especially multifamily real estate investing. And then, just kind of think about how we can create expansive goals together as we think about 2024. If you have any questions, like I said before, you guys are fantastic. You're using the chat and the Q&A, but let's keep it active. Let's just talk and see how we can grow together. So on that note, I will share my screen and we'll get going. Okay, like I said, I wanted to talk today about daring to dream, daring to do, really setting bold goals for 2024, and really trying to figure out like what that can look like as I share my story. So the question is, why am I doing this webinar? Like, why is this webinar really important to me? Really, the purpose of it was to use my journey and my experience to discuss the joys and the challenges that I embarked upon as I went from a career professional to an entrepreneur. The four main points we'll talk about today is why multifamily as a business, why was that my business choice? And then I'll talk about the mindset shift that I needed to embark upon and that I needed to embrace in order to start this journey. I'll talk to you a little bit about the power of social media and really its role, and how it's really helped in my growth. And then we'll talk about relationship building and how that has been the cornerstone. I'll talk to you about a deal that we closed in July, and then I'll just kind of tell you some of like my big goals for 2024. Why do I need to share this information? I really want to empower and inspire transformation. I want to, really encourage you to explore beyond your comfort zone, because that's exactly what I did this year. And really consider alternative paths as a way to like grow personally and professionally. What you'll hear today is my real life journey, how I transitioned from being this secure career, being in this secure career and really embracing the path of entrepreneurship, which was really unknown. And what I'm really hoping tonight is that it serves as a catalyst for you, that as you're sitting here, that you're thinking about like, if I did want to change, if I did want to embark on a new path, what could that look like? I believe in the power of shared experiences. And so being able to recount this journey and share the successes, share the woes, share like all the challenges and the transformation that came from it, I'm hoping that it'll help you grow. And tonight is not about one specific thing. So it's not about real estate, and it's not about like a career change. For me, it feels more like a blueprint. It's a little bit of personal growth. It's a little bit of mindset shift. It's really breaking free from limiting beliefs. And it's also about like really setting expansive goals and how we can think big for 2024. If you're here today and you're feeling stuck, or you're feeling like I feel unfulfilled, it's really about unlocking the potential that's within you and explore new possibilities. Maybe you're the kind of person who thought like 10 years ago was the time that you needed to do this, or maybe 5, or maybe you even thought 2023 was like your year. But I just want to encourage you that there's no better time than now, and now is truly the perfect time. So I'm here today to tell you to think about just daring to dream beyond your current circumstances and imagine what could be. And then after you dream, then let's take action. Let's take massive action and turn some of those dreams into goals. So that's really the goal of why I'm doing this today. So I told you I start with why multifamily as a business venture. I want to take you back a little bit to about 12 to 15 months ago. I was solely an ER physician, and I loved it. I was successful by any means, and I was making a difference. But there was this underlying feeling of wanting more. I knew that there was something in me that I had a bigger impact, and I was supposed to really impact lives. But I was comfortable in where I was, and I was just in my routine every day at work. But there came a moment, a realization where I knew that despite all my professional successes, I had this deeper calling. It was more fulfilling, was more expansive, and I was ready to figure out what that meant by any means necessary. I was desperate. I was really desperate for more. And I remember talking to a friend and a colleague, and I just kind of shared, hey, this is where I am, but I know I need more. I want to do more. We started talking about really ways to diversify wealth in order for us to still love what we do and still really spread our wings. And he told me about multifamily real estate investing. I started off as a passive investor. What that meant was that I just invested my hard-earned capital into a deal, and I let the general partners or the people in charge really be in charge while I did medicine. And I learned that I loved it so much. I started learning more about it. I started learning what it meant to buy apartment complexes. And then I also had proof of concept. What did that mean? I realized that real estate investing, specifically buying apartment complexes, was a powerful wealth building tool. And it still gave us as professionals the ability to practice medicine on our own terms, or whatever it is that you did, while still allowing you to retain your passion in that and still grow wealth. And so that's when I knew that, like, I was like, okay, I'm doing this. But for me, it was more than just money. It was a time where I realized that as professionals in and out of the healthcare field, we were educated on our area of expertise really, really well, but we did not really understand, like, no one taught us finance, no one taught us about investing, no one taught us about real estate. They just expected us to, trust someone else with it. And so I realized that there was a gap, and I realized that my role would be to bridge that gap. That's when the learning became fun. I was starting to do something new, something amazing. And I started meeting new people. I started meeting entrepreneurs. I started coming in contact with deals and really just, and new partners. And that's when I knew it was fun. But I realized that even more than that, I was creating something valuable for myself, for my family, for my colleagues, and for this community that I've started creating and potential investors. I'll tell you the story. I'll tell you a few stories in between this, because then it'll really hit home. I was in the hospital, I was at work, and I was talking about apartment complexes and one of the deals I had been in. And one of my colleagues was sitting next to me, and just unassuming, I left work that day and he called me and he goes, I believe in what you're doing. I see it. He goes, the next deal that you have, I want to be included in it. And you guys, the next deal, I sent him all the paperwork. I said, this is what we're doing. And he, no questions asked. He researched it, reviewed it. We met a few times and he said, I'm in. And just like that, he said, I'm also going to be in on the next one. And so when he got proof of concept, it really made sense to me. But when I started, there was this initial struggle of like really juggling two careers, two intense careers. But I realized very quickly that my sense of purpose was renewed. I was helping people both medically and financially, and I felt like I was making a difference. At some point I realized that, like, I could be at the bedside, taking care of a patient, and I wouldn't have to worry about a lapse in pay, or like a change in pay structure or any administrative decisions. It didn't bother me because I knew that, like, I was doing what I was meant to do, and I still got to, like, empower people financially. So I want to tell you one of the things in between this webinar. I will tell you kind of nuggets to just take home, really things that you can learn and implement tomorrow. And one of the things I will tell you is figure out exactly what you're passionate about and see if you can find harmony in that with what you do every day. Now, this journey is not easy. I'm going to tell you some of my struggles in a second, but the reward of a life that is aligned, that's really, really aligned, even in multiple passions, it can be very rewarding. It can be immense, and it can be really fulfilling. So what started off to me as just like investing, I ended up figuring out financial freedom for myself, but not just me. I created Phoenix Capital Investment, and has morphed into something really cool and something bigger than just me. It's an opportunity to impact lives, but really the big vision is building communities and also helping professionals achieve financial goals. We're expanding our portfolio. We're innovating ways to improve multifamily investing, and we're also like planning to scale doing it sustainably and ethically, because that's really important. I want to drive social change, and that really provide quality housing so that everyone wins. Tenants are happy, investors are happy. And this educational arm, what you're sitting in today, is one of our webinars. Like I said, if you missed it earlier, we do it every other month, the last Thursday of the month. And I want to build and make this more robust. I want to create workbooks for every step of every step that an investor goes through. And eventually, I plan to write a book. And I just want to be vulnerable in everything that I'm telling you so that you know that you can also dream big. We'll also create a charitable arm where I can empower young girls that they can dream and they can really accomplish big things, because that's where it starts. So as much as all of this is exciting, it wasn't easy in the start. I see it now, but I did not see it before, and here's why. I was not in the right frame of mind to embark on this journey, but I did spend considerable amount of time working on my mindset. Who did I need to be to embark on this journey? Who did I need to be to become an entrepreneur and to get me to the end of 2023? So I realized that in order to be successful, I had to change my mindset, like I said earlier. There were mental barriers that I faced, and I know that some of you here are facing the same thing, especially if you're starting out new. There was fear of failure. I struggled with needing the approval of others. And there are two additional primary fears that all of us struggle with, that I really struggled with, which was that I'm not enough and that I won't be loved. But I also, and it wasn't even only that, I also struggled with imposter syndrome. As someone who is, who's a healthcare professional, who's a physician, transitioning into something new where I didn't know a lot in the beginning. Like every time I questioned every room that I walked into, like, was I supposed to be here? And then I also struggled with a lot of societal expectations, as a physician, to stay in my own lane and not to dream and not to do all these other things that had been placed in my heart. And then, so I realized that in order to kind of combat some of these mindset shifts, I did a lot of self-reflection in the beginning. I needed to demystify a lot of these fears, because these fears can really, they can hold you down, and they can really stop you from like reaching big goals. I did a lot of journaling, and the reason why I did that was because I wanted to gain clarity on my aspirations and my fears, and then figure out the ways that I needed to grow and the things that I needed to conquer. One of the most important things that I did was I continually learned. I read books in the last year and a half. I've probably read more books than I've read my whole life. I read books on personal development. I read books on entrepreneurship. I read books on real estate investing. I went to seminars. I went to conferences. Any way that I could learn. I realized very quickly that in order to grow, I had to continue learning and I had to continue evolving. I sought out mentorship. I realized that I could learn so much from other people's experiences and their wisdom, and that has significantly propelled me forward. I'll share some of the struggles I went through. I remember a lot of times I would walk into rooms and I would be alone. And I would walk in alone, and I would be in the midst of very, very smart people. I remember once I was invited to a broker meeting, and it was just right after work, and I was in scrubs, and I walked in, and it was a sea of men. And they were all well dressed, and they were all just talking, having a good time. And I was the only woman in the room. And I thought for a split second, I was like, if I walked out right now, would anyone see me? Would anyone even notice that like I showed up? Would I just like go and like cry myself in the corner? But I didn't. um, I told myself that I needed to feel the fear and do it anyways. And I needed to always take steps in order for me to grow. And that night, so much greatness came out of that. I met some of the brokers that I've worked with today, and I've joined some really cool accountability groups that came out from that night. I want to share that because if I had retreated, I would have missed out on such great opportunities. So I have truly learned to, no matter what, feel the fear and do it anyways. And I want someone to really hear that tonight. But one thing I also learned to do is I learned to celebrate the small victories. Like, like sitting here tonight is a victory for me because I'm getting to share my story. And even if I'm afraid, even if I thought, who's going to show up tonight, it didn't matter, because I was like, if I get to talk to one person and share my story and give value, that's what really matters. So in this journey of entrepreneurship, you get a lot of people who will be against you. But the one thing you need to do is to celebrate any victory that comes your way. So in this room, as I already saw the names that signed in the beginning who said hi, I know that there are a lot of people who are like 10-year entrepreneurs who are ahead of me, but I also know that there are a lot of people who are just starting out. And so if you're starting out, and even if you're 10 years ahead of me, I've been in that place where in the beginning where I didn't know anything and I had a lot of limiting beliefs that were stopping me. So I want to tell you this. This is nugget number 2. Examine your own life and figure out what mindset changes that you need to happen today. What is holding you back? Sometimes people say it's resources or it's money, but I don't think so. I think maybe it's fear of failure. Maybe it's some other limiting belief that I'm not struggling with. Maybe it's the opinion of others. But think about, like, if you could squash some of those fears, think about what they're costing you today. Imagine if you let go, if you tried really hard to let go of some of those fears. Imagine the amount of growth and fulfillment that could come from it. So I'll tell you something I did, and I'll talk about it at the end again. But in the last 3 months, I compiled every tool that I've used to grow this year. And I put it into, like, with all the action steps, I put it into a gift for everyone here, to just kind of allow you to help, to use the same tools that I use to help me grow, and maybe to give you like a tool to help you plan and dream and craft your 2024. But you have to stay till the end, because I want to wait till the end. But yeah, so that's just a little bit of the mindset shift that I needed in order to get me here today. So I wanted to talk a little bit about, the next thing I want to talk about is the power of social media. Now, the people who know me and this, who are in the audience who know me, you know that I am more of an extrovert than an introvert. And I did not have any social media until the beginning of this year. I was just like in my own island. I was in Nashville. I was doing my thing. But then I realized something. I realized that when your dream is big and your impact is even bigger, then you need to go from that one-to-one relationship to one-to-many. And social media was that platform that I needed to, was the way that I needed to do that. I picked one platform at the beginning of the year, and I picked LinkedIn. And I picked it as a way to just really grow and share my story. Now, in the beginning, I was so skeptical. I was afraid. I had those same doubts that I told you I struggled with. I'm like, will it amount to anything? I was afraid that someone would judge me. I was uncertain about what to post. Like, I really had no idea what to post, but I felt like that didn't matter. I needed to stop worrying about the reception. I just needed to do it. So I started with what I knew. I started with medicine. I started with writing inspirational quotes, but I started telling my story because I knew that what that would do is that maybe one day it would touch someone to be able to tell their own story. The more I learned, the more I shared, and the more I just the more people got excited. I brought in a level of vulnerability. I was not afraid. I would write a post, and if it was too vulnerable, I would just press enter and I'd walk away from my computer because I felt that if it was that vulnerable, someone probably would learn from it. But what helped me really take action was that at the beginning of last year, so January 1st, I committed and I said every weekday, no matter what, I would post on LinkedIn. I would share my story. I would share about entrepreneurship. I would share about medicine. I would share about real estate investing, and I would share about growth. And I made that commitment to myself. And that was the best thing I did, because no matter what, if I was tired, I still did it. I was like, I'm going to post today. But I also realized that in doing that, I needed to bring in authenticity and influence versus just the following. People are authentic. People are amazing. And as long as you're authentic, you'll find your tribe. So if you're someone who is like thinking, I have something to say, I have something major to say, it might be your time to like jump on. And it became more than just creating a persona for me. It was really about sharing the real me, my thoughts, my experiences, the lessons that I learned, hoping that someone would grow from it. I posted something a few weeks ago, and it was Nkem 2 years ago versus Nkem now. And I just poured out my heart, and the support I got from that post, I got women saying, thank you for sharing your story. Because of you, I can take the next step. This is not short term. Short term is if you're looking for a following. Long term is if you really want to build connections and relationships. The why behind social media for me was that I would connect with professionals, I would share my journey into entrepreneurship, and I would inspire others. I'll tell you a story. Last week, I worked all day. I woke up at 4:30. I went to work in the morning, and I usually have meetings in the evening. But that day I had someone sign up for an 8 p.m. meeting. And you guys, I was so exhausted. I got the reminder on my phone at 7:30, and I almost wanted to cancel the meeting. But I showed up. I showed up at a C plus at that meeting, and it was someone who had found me on LinkedIn, who had signed up to have a meeting with me. And I showed up just exhausted. And this guy, I now I know, but he was in Argentina, which means he was 3 hours ahead, which means for him it was 11 p.m. And as soon as I turned on the camera, he said, I want to tell you something. He's like, you inspire me. He said, I show up every day on LinkedIn to look for your posts because he goes, I'm so inspired by what you do. And I went from a C plus to an A plus. Like I sat up and I was like, this is the reason why you show up. This is the reason why you decide to inspire someone. And he said, I'll never forget what he said. He said, I'm just starting and I'm growing. I'm starting to invest. And he goes, one day I will get to invest with Phoenix Capital. But he goes, but in the meantime, he goes, don't stop showing up because you're showing up for people like me. And that just, it sealed the deal. Like I told myself I would continue this path. I would continue to encourage people. And I'll tell you that what it has done for me in the last year, it has shaped my career. It has increased my network significantly, and it has just helped me grow from a personal standpoint. So I am willing to commit to another year of every weekday posting on LinkedIn. If there's someone here who wants to do it with me, come join me. I will engage, I'll support you, but I will only ask you this: share your story, engage authentically, and use it as a tool for growth. The next thing I wanted to talk about was relationship building. I want to tell you this quote, and I think it's very, very important. It's a quote that I recently read that said, you can do it alone. You alone can do it, but you cannot do it alone. I'll say it again because I messed it up. You alone can do it, but you cannot do it alone. In the last year, I've learned that people will take you to where you need to go. You'll do your part, but the relationships that you build along the way will skyrocket you to the top. I used to think I could do it all by myself, and that was such a flawed thinking. And in the last year, I realized that in order to think expansively, in order to grow, that you need people. If there's one thing you should take from me today, is that your circle of impact is very important. Who are the 5 people that you are surrounding yourself with, that you're growing professionally? Who are sharpening you, and who are you sharpening? It has been crucial in my transition, and I think it can really help someone here today. When you find great people, hold on to them for dear life because they only come once. In the past 12 months, I'll tell you 3 sets of relationships that have just like skyrocketed my growth. The first one is a guy named Stuart Raleigh, and I met him at church. He was a wealthy businessman, and I told him, I said, I am venturing into entrepreneurship. I want you to hold my hand. He met with me every Friday morning at a coffee shop, and he just poured into me. He made me sit down and figure out my why, figure out why that was really important, and why I needed to grow, and why I was venturing on this path. Another person is Bob Frazier. I was standing in line at a real estate conference. I was starving, and we just bumped into each other. He started asking me questions, and he poured life into me, to the point that he saw so much growth in me that he invited me to speak and to share my story at his business mastermind. And that to me was just phenomenal. XI Capital Investment has been a group of like solid men who have built a real estate investment firm, and they've become my partners. And they have really skyrocketed my growth this year. And that's why I think that it's so important when you find lifelong friendships and partners. One of my close friends, her name's Nikki. We started entrepreneurship journey together, and we've just been growing and growing. And it's remarkable because we talked a few weeks ago, and just to see where we are and to think about revenue and to think about all those things and just doing it together. So as you're sitting here, I hope that you're thinking, who can I link arms with? Who can I join? Who can I inspire to help you grow? I think that's just important. I will say this, that mutual relationship building is the cornerstone of success and growth. I read that book by Benjamin Hardy and Dan Sullivan, Who Not How. It's not how you get to where you're going, but it's who will help you get there. It's the people that you really link arms with that will get you places. So who can you link arms with this upcoming year? If that's your one big goal to get you excited, to get you like going in 2024, that's something that I want to tell you about. So I told you I'd talk about those 4 things. And then I also wanted to talk about a deal. I want to tell you just a little bit about a deal that we recently closed. So like, just so you know what Phoenix is all about, what we're doing, and how we're growing. And so it's McKinley Apartment. It is, we bought it for 4.2 million. I will tell you a little bit about how I got involved in this deal. We bought it for 4.2 million. We raised 1.9 million. It's 48 units, and it's a mix of 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms. We bought each apartment complex was 81,000. It was built in 1993. All the investors that came in, we had a projected cash on cash of 7% with a preferred return of 70%, with an average annual return all projected of 16.7 and an IRR of 15%. The minimum investment in the deal was 50,000, and we initially, some of the hurdles we went through. We initially were supposed to close in June, but we ended up closing the last week in July. Our plan and part of our business plan is to hold it for 5 years. And I just wanted to tell you that investors have started receiving distributions, and it's really exciting for all the investors who are on this call and who's in the deal. So I just wanted to kind of give you a little bit as I shared some of like the big goals and the big things that we're doing this year. I wanted to set the stage. So when I started Phoenix Capital Investment, my initial goal was, I knew that it might be difficult to find some of these deals. And so my goal was to really educate and empower investors. But one of the things that I did was, like I told you, and I meant it, I started building solid relationships. I started investing in people. And that's really how this deal came about. There was a group of investors who I partnered with. And when the deal came on the table, they called me and said, hey, do you want to be a part of this deal? And it just turned out that like it was such an awesome deal, but really that's how it started. It was through a relationship that the deal kind of came and blossomed and started going from there. So the next step was kind of navigating the deal. I shared with you some of the numbers briefly. I gave you some just high level numbers and details on the deal, but we reviewed the deal and we underwrote it independent of all the numbers that we saw. We did it ourselves. We wanted to make sure that it met the requirements that we needed to for Phoenix. The deal was in the Midwest. It was in Iowa, which isn't our core market. Phoenix Capital, we focus in the Southeast. So we pick markets in Georgia, Carolinas, and Tennessee, which is home base for me. But I knew that there was a lot of potential in the deal. So even though it wasn't our target market, it was still something that I was willing to go after. It was a fairly new building, and it was well kept. So there was like not a ton of deferred maintenance on it. The sellers really did a good job with keeping it and renovating it. The residents in this apartment complex, they were all working class citizens. They worked really hard. They paid their rent on time. But one of the good things about this deal, when we looked at it, it was like way below market rent. So we knew that we had the ability to like increase rents at a decent pace. And one of the also good things about it was, like I said, it was very well maintained, but like my partner, they were local to the deal. So there were boots on the ground and they were there every time. Another good thing about the deal is that we purchased it with fixed debt, and we got it at a really good rate in a time where debt was just climbing. We were able to, I was able to participate in the due diligence, which my investors loved. I flew out there, looked at the deal. I met with the sellers. Every single apartment, we looked at it, we checked it out. We made sure that I was able to bring back good news to our investors, which was that the deal was a solid deal, and it's still going really well. But I won't tell you that it was easy every step of the way. There was tons of emotional roller coasters as we were going. There's a lot of doubt and anxiety as we kind of went through the deal. And there were tons of requirements. Why we closed later than we planned was because there were tons of requirements that were needed for the loan approval. Our insurance quote rose at some point, but because we were very conservative in our underwriting, we already underwrote for that. So even though with the insurance prices rising, and it was out of our control, it was due to a natural disaster. Also, like I said, we were purchasing at a time that debt was continuously rising. So we weren't sure exactly what we would close at. But like I said, we underwrote very conservatively, and that like helped us in the long run. We also started thinking about ways that we would implement something called ratio utility billing system, to be able to bill back like a lot of the costs that we were not, as a way to really help our investors. And we also started thinking about how we would ramp up renovations and really go about like increasing rent, not aggressively, but we knew we could start early. So those are some of the things we were just thinking, as with our emotional roller coaster as the deal was going. but the closing was monumental. It just helped us know that like we can do hard things. And so as you're sitting there, as you're thinking, yes, for me, it was real estate investing, but for you, what is it for you? What is that hard thing that you can think about that you want to embark upon this year? As you're sitting here and hearing my story, I just want you to be thinking that. I want to continue a little bit. Some of the lessons that I learned, in this investment was the art of negotiation. When you go into a deal, when you go into a conversation with a win-win mentality, honestly, everyone wins at the end, and it helps how you make decisions. It helps how you just like engage with the other party. But that was very big in like how we got this deal as an off-market deal, so it didn't even get not a ton of people knew about it. Another thing I'll tell you is one of the lessons I learned is the importance of due diligence. And this applies in the deal, but it also applied in real life. So like with every single challenge, with every single endeavor that you embark upon, it's so important to do your due diligence. And for us, it was a make or break in this deal. Everything we did was thorough, like the tenant history, structure of the building, any deferred maintenance. We looked very hard into everything. And like I said, just like in life, in everything that you're doing, no matter what, it's very important to like do your due diligence and make sure that what you're getting into is really what you're getting into. And the kind of the underlying thing I've talked about here a lot is also building a supportive network. And for me, it was advisors, mentors, partners in this deal. But what is it for you? And so for me, I'll tell you a little bit. One last thing is that this deal was more than just a transaction. It was a huge milestone. It was a testament to like the courage to embark on something hard and to do it, and the ability to learn, to adapt, and then just to grow as an individual. I think it's really important. So I want to tell you that what is your own challenge that you need to embark upon? What are you sitting and realizing that you need to embrace? What is that challenge and what lessons can you learn from it? That's something that I definitely want you to just kind of sit on. Because when you learn that lesson, it can be super duper invaluable. Yes, I just said super duper. But this is a picture. These are just some snapshots. And I have new more pictures. We started on renovations and it looks amazing and the tenants are happy and investors are happy. So I wanted to make sure that I left a ton of time for questions, comments, but I want to leave you with this. Tony Robbins has become, can everyone hear me? My earpiece just fell off. I think we can still all hear me. Tony Robbins has become one of my mentors, and he said success is 80% psychology and 20% skill. I wanted to share with you that no matter what journey you're on, the role of mindset, your attitude, and beliefs in achieving that success is 80%. Skill is very important, but how you show up every day is very, very important. I want you, as you're sitting, as you're thinking, and as you're hearing my story, I want you to think expansively about your own goals and consider not just what you want to achieve, but also who you want to become along the way. Like, who am I becoming as I'm achieving that goal, as I'm heading to that finish line? So I want to tell you this, to pursue that life on purpose. And the pursuit is not just going to be personally rewarding. It will be that, but it also really has the power to impact others. I use my journey today to just kind of share where I've been. I talked to you about my career change. I talked to you about like personal and professional growth. And I talked to you about entrepreneurship. I hope that I have not only given you inspiration, because that's really what I wanted to do today, but I also have given you tangible approaches on how really you can implement your life and your career as you embark on 2024. I just wanted to like end there. I have two more things to say, and then I'll open it up for questions. But it's very important, like I said, who are you becoming in this path? What is it that you know that you can do, and what is stopping you? Like I said, 80% psychology, 20% skill. So as I wrap up, last slide. Okay. So I told you guys that I saved something for last. I told you guys in the beginning, in the last 3 months, every step that I've taken, every word, every article I've read, every mindset shift I've worked on, every day I wrote in a gratitude journal. I created that. I changed some certain habits, and how I did that every step of the way, I added it in this book, in this workbook. I also included space to write a letter. I think it's 40 pages, so it's pretty it's pretty in depth. But I left the space, a page, for you as you think about the end of 2023 and you start thinking about 2024. I left one page for you to write a letter to yourself. I know you think it might be cheesy, but it can be truly amazing when you open that letter next year. If you can date it for 6 months, you can date it for 9 months, you can date it for whatever you want, but to give yourself some time to grow. And I think that when you open it, I think that you'll be a different person. I think that you would have seen the just immense amount of growth that you've put into it. And I think that it would make all the difference. So I put together the workbook and I wanted to gift it to everyone here. It will be, as you logged in, I have all your information. So it will be in your email first thing tomorrow morning. But I just wanted to use it just as a way to encourage you as you're thinking about next steps, next year, as you're thinking expansively. And it's everything. It truly is everything that I've done. And I'm really excited. Oh, tell me how you like it. Tell me the pages that worked for you. Tell me the ones that didn't. Share it on social media. I would just love to be able to like help as many people as I can with this. And there's a really cool letter that I wrote to every reader in it. So I won't tell you any more about it, but you should be getting it first thing tomorrow morning. And that is all I have. I just want to thank you, everyone who showed up, everyone who joined. I'm really excited to just like share my story with you. If anything I said is interesting to you, I would love for you to join the Phoenix community. Multiple ways for you to do that. You can log on our website. You can text wealth to that number or scan the QR code, and anywhere will get you anywhere will get you back to me, and I'll definitely reach out to you. That is all I got. Let's stop sharing. Okay. There are tons of messages. So yes, I left time at the end because I really wanted to engage with people and I wanted people to ask me questions. So I'm just going to run through the Q&A and see if anyone has any questions. Value over viral, I like that. Good timing for me, considering I'm a brand new real estate investor in both residential, commercial real estate. Rosario, that's awesome. I'm so happy to hear that. Thank you. I'm all in. Yay, Dr. Pamela. We can really do hard things. I really, really believe that. Oh, everyone, you're welcome. Dr. O said, you're awesome. I can feel your passion. It's exciting. Thanks for candid share. Wonderful, inspired. Do you guys have any questions? Yes, the recording will be sent to all the attendees. Absolutely, Mona Lee. Does anyone have any questions? I really wanted it to be a time to like engage. I may have sped through, but if there's anyone, Elaine, thank you so much. If there's anyone who has questions, I'd love to just like hang out. We have time. I said it would be an hour, so I'm like quite early. Look, Mark, thank you. And I will also, one of the things I said I would do is I would share a list of resources that I've used, just like more like books. Those things I'll share with you, and I'll be part of the emails that you'll get tomorrow. Someone said, for every fledgling investor, being liquid is very hard. The money comes in and flows out just as quickly. How do you save for certain investments without missing out on others? Oh, this is a really good question. Okay, guys, I love these questions. Please ask them. So in the beginning, I think the best thing and the first thing that you need to do is you need to know the sponsor, know the right people to know the sponsor, know who's running the deal. I think that's the most important thing, because then you save whatever resource you have for that deal. Don't feel like, you don't have FOMO, so you don't feel like you're missing out on this deal because this deal is going out. It might not be for you. So I would say that the biggest thing is really know who's running the deal, know the sponsors, build relationship with them, ask them hard questions so that you know that if a deal comes up, that's the right one for you. That's how I would approach it, and that has worked for me. Do you feel like, F4 asked the question, do you feel like you chose real estate or did it choose you? Oh, that's a really good question. So to be honest with you, I think that I think that it chose me, and I think I was ready for it. So I knew that there's a lot in my story, which I'll share about medicine at a time of COVID, especially in the ER, was very uncertain. We were losing jobs, we're losing our hours were cut significantly. People were going from one job to the another and to another. People were working like 2 to 3 jobs just to make ends meet. So I knew for me that I was figuring out how else can I grow wealth. And FY, there's this quote that has stuck with me. Andrew Carnegie said that 90% of millionaires in the US made their money through real estate. So I knew that like real estate was what I wanted to get into. The exact path I wasn't sure from day one, but I just I dove in, and then it just kind of it kind of happened. But I worked really hard, and the more I learned, the more I got proof of concept, and it's helped me grow. Mona Lee asked, do you suggest saving towards your first deal, or find a deal based on the funds that you have, no matter how limited it might be? So no. So Mona Lee, me personally, I don't think that you should jump into anything that comes your way. I think that you should, the beginning phase is to do your research, learn about, and Mona Lee, I can reach out to you and, like just share some resources with you and whoever else wants some. But I think the first thing you need to do is educate yourself. So because you don't want to jump into the wrong deal and lose money, because in today's economy, a lot of people are losing money. I would never suggest that. I think you need to spend the time reading, researching, asking questions, having conversations with people like me or other investors, and to just figure out a way, and then figure out what works for you. If you have the time, if you have the time and you want to invest and you want to start small, and maybe you want to start with something called house hacking. So you like live in a corner, live in one part, rent the other part out, and just learn that way and grow that way. That's a great way to start. Or, if you have the resources and if you have the funds, then you can just like invest passively while you still do what you love. So it all depends on where you are financially and what your long-term goals are. But I would say the first thing to do is really start reading, start educating yourself so that you don't make a bad decision. Grace said, what are little choices I can make every day to become a better and more informed investor? Oh, Grace, great question. I would say kind of what I was just telling Mona Lee about is, one, surround yourself with, you're welcome. Surround yourself. Shamim, it's so nice to see you. Good luck on your webinar tonight. And I think the most important thing is like, you just engage, read, learn, come join webinars like this, come join different platforms like this, figure out what others are doing, and grow that way. I think that would be the best place to start. But I definitely think that like the more you do, the more you'll learn and the more you can grow. Any other questions? I have both the chat and the Q&A open. So if anyone else has any other questions, I would definitely love to hear it. I agree with that. Jim said something really important. Mastermind groups are great accelerators. So if you're at the point that you can join a mastermind, they can definitely accelerate your growth. And I definitely think that that's important. And there are different types of masterminds that you can join to help you grow. So I definitely agree with that 1000%. But also you have to be ready. I feel like you have to maybe be at a certain stage to be able to join the mastermind for it to be very beneficial for you. Yes, you can get, everyone's going to get the webinar, everyone's going to get the recording. So don't worry about that. As long as you signed in and it got your email, I got you. Okay, so Olonwa asked, investing in single family homes versus multifamily, your thoughts? So this is, I'll be honest, and this is just my opinion. So you can kind of ask around. But I'm a fan of multifamily real estate investing. And the reason why I am is because you can, economies of scale. So what you can do with one, imagine doing that with 48, imagine doing that with 100. Now, I know that sometimes you can't start with that. And so sometimes I think people start with single family, but I just think that the returns on single families are so small versus what you can achieve in multifamily real estate investing. And for those who are new, when I say multifamily, I mean apartment complexes, and we're talking about small are 1 to 5, and then 5 to about like 50 to 60, and then like 75 to above. So that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about multifamily. But it definitely has to do with one stage in life that you're in. But I think when you think about single family one versus multifamily many, and when you think about, like I said, economies of scale, it's almost the same amount of work to do a few than to do like 50. And you have to get to the mindset. Another thing about mindset, it's hard to think about it like that now, because you're like, how can I think about one versus 50? But when you start, you realize that it really is that. And with one single family, if you are a busy professional, which I know you are, if you start thinking about, how am I going to manage this myself? Do I want to be a landlord? Do I want someone calling me at 2 a.m. in the morning saying that my toilet is broken? Those are the things that come with single family. And if you think about, using a property management company, which we use in multifamily because we can add that into our costs, your margins are so tiny in single family. So you're paying a chunk to the property management. So like your take home is very minimal. So when you put all of that together, what is your time worth? That's how I would think about single family versus multifamily. Yeah, Monali, I'm on Instagram. Yes. For those who are looking for me on Instagram, it's my name. I'm just gonna type it. So everyone, doctors. That is, oh, I spelled it wrong. Okay, so you can find me there. And I'm also on LinkedIn. If you type in my first name, last name, you'll find me. Dr. Olisemeka said, how do you know when you have the next deal, and how do we know when you have the next deal, and can anyone invest? Great question. So we are actively looking. We don't have a deal right now. Part of this webinar is really just to educate people so that at the right time, they'll be able to jump in. So we're actively looking for our next deal. We don't have it yet, but yes, anyone can invest. And when we talk, this is a way to build relationship with every single person here. And so when we talk one-on-one, we'll talk about like the difference between a 506B and a 506 deal, and I'll break all of that down. But yes, anyone can invest. And as soon as we have our next deal, everyone here will be made aware of it, and we are actively looking for it. Tell me a time. Oh, Grace asked me another question. Tell me a time a deal didn't go as you expected. How did you learn? How did you grow? Okay, so there was a deal. I'll tell you, Grace, great question. There was a deal that I was really excited about. It was right outside of Atlanta. And we had underwritten the deal as a team. And I thought, this was going to be our next deal, but it didn't end up working out, and I just could not make the numbers make sense. And the more I met with people, the more, there were people who were eager, who were excited to invest, and they wanted a deal, and I really wanted to make this deal work, but I just knew that, like, we met with our team, the numbers were not working, and I had to step away from it. And I realized at that point that even if it was important enough for me to find our next deal, it had to be the right deal. And I was not willing to get into the wrong deal so that we would find our next deal. And I learned, what I really, really learned from that instance is that it all depends on who you link arms with. And at that point in time, even if we were desperate as a team to find something, I knew it wasn't the right one. And I knew that when the right one came, it would be for us. And it helped me realize that we don't have to rush into making bad decisions because that's the only decision on the table right now. I stepped back and I looked like I realized that it wasn't the best thing for our investors, and I thought the best thing to do was to walk away, and that's what I did. So it just helped me grow in that. Like, there'll be tons of opportunities, and that's what Mona Lee asked. There'll be tons of opportunities, but you have to realize what the right opportunity is, and go with that, and go with your gut. Anything else is just like noise. Okay. Does anyone have? I think I answered. Did I miss any question? Did I miss anything? I want to make sure that I answered everything. All the yeses and thank yous. Thank you, everyone. But if I did not answer any question, it's 6:54 or 7:54, wherever you are. But I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who came out to support me and to support Phoenix. I'm really excited as to like where this is going, where this journey is taking me, and I'm really thrilled to just realize that like there are people who are linking arms with me. So you know how to get a hold of me if you have any questions at all, any comments. And if it's not multifamily real estate investing, because as you can tell from the whole presentation, I'm all about growth. I think that like if we're not growing, we're probably dying, and we don't want that. So if you have questions, comments, concerns, if you just are looking for ways to grow, I would definitely love to help you on that journey. So on that note, I will say good night. And thank you, everyone. Thanks for all the comments. And yes, if you definitely want to reach out to me, you know how. Okay, that's all.